Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Here today to discuss about AEW Dynamite July 7th, 2021. This was a decent show, very solid, great main event, by the way, with the street fight for the tag team titles with the Young Bucks versus Eddie Kingston and Pentagon Jr. It was an okay show. I mean, it wasn't terrible at all by any means. And there was some surprise on the show. That was Alistair Black. He finally showed up in AEW. Why he showed up in AEW without, having a 90-day clause, I'm not sure. I think it was because he was released from the company. And they re-signed Zelina Vega. So in return of Vega, returning back to WWE and probably meeting their demands, they granted Alistair Black the right to be able to go to whatever promotion he would want to go to and get him off the 90-day probation from being in another competition, the 90-day competition non-compete thing. So that's a possibility of what took place and why Alistair Black is now in AEW. He doesn't look any different than what he did in WWE. It's kind of like he's continuing his own storyline only in a different promotion, which is kind of cool. I'm pretty certain they're going to change the name, though, because of copyright infringement that they would be doing if they kept the name Alistair Black, unless Alistair Black managed to get copyright towards the name so that he can continue to go by that exact name. Highly doubt that's the idea, though, because of the fact that that name was produced by WWE themselves, not himself. So that's probably what it's going to be. I do believe they mentioned his name on the show. They went by his real name, Tommy End, and then they called it Metallic Black or some shit like that. I forgot what it was. If I'm mispronouncing the word or incorrect about the name, I do apologize. I know they said Black at the end for the last name. The first name, I'm not too entirely sure what they said. I wasn't paying much attention to the name. I was paying attention to who he was attacking in the middle of the ring. Now, lights were going out in the middle of the first matchup, which we'll get to right now. It was Cody Rhodes and QT Marshall in a strap match. The lights went out. I was thinking maybe Sting was going to show up. There was going to be some kind of thing going on with Sting possibly, which wouldn't have made no sense, but the lights were going out. They were blaming it on the weather conditions, which is kind of true. I mean, Florida was getting hit with a hurricane, not a major one, but a minor one, and it could have affected the lighting system in the arena or some shit. Miami does have a tendency to get a lot of the hurricanes in Florida, so that could have worked, but I don't think that was the case. I didn't have a feeling they were having technical issues. I thought this was part of the story that they were trying to tell, and eventually later on in the show they did it, and both times it was during a Cody Rhodes either a match or a segment, which was the case. Cody Rhodes ends up beating QT Marshall in this strap match by touching all four corners and walking away victorious. The match itself was pretty self-explanatory, an average, normal matchup between these two guys, and Cody Rhodes picked up the victory and walked away victorious. So a good solid to the show, a solid start, excuse me. But personally, I wasn't thinking this should have been the opener. I think Andrade and Matt Sydal should have been the first match. They unfortunately were the third match on the show. There was about 5 matches on this card. The next match after that was a 6-man tag team match between the Inner Circle, which consists of Jake Hager, Ortiz, and Santana versus FTR and Wardlow. This match was pretty dang good as well. Not a terrible matchup. It got me kind of bored here and there, but majority of the match, it was pretty decent overall for in-ring action. Tully Blanchard kind of distracted the referee with things going on in the middle of the ring, so he wouldn't see that FTR was in the middle of the ring to help out by delivering a finishing maneuver. I believe it was on Jake Hager, or it was, yeah, I think it was on Jake Hager, because Wardlow picked up the pinfall and got the 1-2-3 for the team, and they walked away victorious in that matchup. Going back to the Cody Rhodes QT Marshall, I'm going to do the same thing I did for the NXT Great American Bash episode, with giving you guys the stars, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. So Cody and QT Marshall, I'm giving that a 3 out of 5 stars. This match, with the 6-man tag team match, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Not a bad match at all. The next match after that was Andrade and Matt Sydal. This was a solid match as well, 3.5 out of 5 stars, and Matt Sydal loses to Andrade in a very decent matchup. Andrade came out with kind of a suit, a black mask over his head. He kind of looked like a character from the Batman series from the DC Comics. I think they called him Black Mask or some shit. He kind of looked like that, which I didn't have any issues with. I thought it was okay. So, yeah, Matt Sydal and Andrade is a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next match on the card was Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy versus the Blade and the Bunny. This match, I could take it or leave it. There was a little bit of distraction by the referee. The referee did not notice the brass knucks given to the Blade from the Bunny, by the way, and the Blade hits Orange Cassidy in the face with the brass knucks and knocks him clean out. Now, the thing is, Chris Statlander managed to tag herself in, but she wasn't on the apron holding on to the turnbuckle tag post, or, you know, that little string that they have attached to the turnbuckle. She wasn't actually holding on to that. She was on the floor, and she managed to reach through the ropes and tag Orange Cassidy to put herself in, and only to put in the Bunny, and she hits the Big Bang Theory to get the 1-2-3 and walk away victorious. So very shocking there. That match wasn't all that big of a deal to me. I think it was a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's an average okay matchup. The main event, though, was the best match on the entire card, thankfully. This was a very good street fight between these two teams. Thankfully, the Young Bucks retained. For a moment, I thought they were going to lose, but they did the right thing, kept the titles on the Young Bucks. Young Bucks were very vicious in this matchup. They were throwing thumbtacks into Eddie Kingston's face. They threw it into Pentagon Jr.'s face, and then they inserted thumbtacks into Eddie Kingston's mouth, and then super kicked him straight in the face while the thumbtacks were in his mouth. And he fell to the mat, and that's how the match ended, with them both pinning Eddie Kingston for the 1-2-3. So Eddie Kingston has had some bad luck encounters with the Young Bucks. This match is a 4 out of 5 stars. Very solid, entertaining shit. I enjoyed this main event very much so. Now, let's get into the other segments and promos that took place during this show. One of which was Chris Jericho and MJF. This was solid stuff. Really good stuff. There was a fan that tried to get in the ring and attack MJF, and the fan was pulled away by a security guard, and Jericho tried to punch the fan in the head. Now, I don't know if this was part of a storyline. This is something that was supposed to happen, and was just made to look like it wasn't. Because I've never seen a wrestler actually hit a fan in the head. I don't think they're allowed to do that. So I think he was a paid fan to make this a little bit more entertaining. for people to actually see a wrestler attack a fan and be able to get away with it. If it was real and he just attacked the fan because he thought he was being an ass, that's a little weird. I've never seen something like that done before. I've seen fans run in front of a wrestler or something like that. They don't touch him. They don't do anything. They look at him like they're a fucking idiot, but they never physically touch them in any manner, which was kind of surprising for Jericho to do that. So that's why I'm thinking this was set up to happen. It was a paid fan to jump the barricade and try to interact with the wrestler, and the wrestler interacted with him type of thing, as a fun way of making the fans go, holy shit, what the hell? We just saw Jericho hit a fan in the head. So, and you could see the fan, they had the camera panned on the fans around the arena. I think this arena was able to contain maybe like 8,000 people. I was saying like 5 to 10,000, which is about the correct amount of people I think was there. So, I mean, it wasn't a huge venue, like compared to when they had their first AEW event from 2019. But it was a decent size compared to the Daily Place. I'll tell you that much. So yeah, that happened. MJF finally told him the stipulations of for him to be able to go one-on-one with MJF in the ring. And that would be, he has to go up against all 4 members of the Pinnacle first, and he can't lose a single match. And if he's able to do that, he'll get MJF in a one-on-one match. Now, these matches are not normal matches. These are going to be specialized stipulation matches made by MJF on each opponent he faces. And he has to win them back to back to back to back to back in order to face MJF. Now, I think he's going to compete in a gauntlet match on a Dynamite episode. When this takes place, they have not announced that yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be at Fight for the Fallen or Fyter Fest Night 2 or something like that. They're probably going to stretch it out to Fight for the Fallen because that's further down the road. I think Fight for the Fallen takes place in August, so they're probably going to have him do that. Those 4 matches at Fight for the Fallen, and then face MJF one-on-one at All Out on September 5th, which I think would be the best idea for them to do. This match should be taking place on pay-per-view, not on a fucking live televised show. So that's the stipulation there. Jericho is then asked, after he signs the contract, he says, no problem, man, I'll go ahead and I'll do it. There was another funny thing that took place. The fans were chanting Y2J, and Jericho said, Y2J died a long time ago. So, like, don't even call me Y2J, because he's not part of WWE. Y2J was initially started by the WWE. So his attitude is, anything from WWE back in the day, fuck it, it doesn't exist anymore. It's dead. Which I think is good, because anything associated with WWE right now is not a good idea, even for him. And I'm not just saying that because they're trash, because they are, but because of the fact that he's no longer with the company. So there's no need to be using WWE slogans and using it on Jericho in the middle of an AEW ring. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, that was one of the segments that took place. Jericho was then asked to handshake MJF. MJF got his handshake, but then ate the Judas effect, a spinning back elbow to the head, and knocked him unconscious. The fans were loving the shit out of it. Cody and, Arn Anderson was being interviewed by Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone asked Arn Anderson about how he feels about being in Miami and being in the middle of the ring, and he's got his son who won his debut match, and Cody won his match tonight. How is he feeling about everything that's been going on lately? And he said, I'm feeling great, man. I'm glad to be here in Miami. And he seemed super excited. He sounded great. He doesn't sound like he's ill or anything like that. Hopefully he's not. And then out of nowhere, the lights go out again During the match, the lights went out. They were saying it was technical difficulties, and the lights go out again. This time it was off for a very long time, longer than a normal, surprise entrant of a wrestler. So they were trying to make it as much of a technical issue as possible before you actually see the ring and everything else with all the lights turned back on. You see Tommy End in the corner of the ring, and Arn Anderson's like, what the fuck? He gets black mass in the face, clean shot. The heel of his fucking shoe hits Arn Anderson right, I believe, in the mouth or in the fucking temple, knocks him on the mat, flat on his ass. And, Arn Anderson sold the shit out of it. Then Cody gets in the ring. He's checking on Arn Anderson. He's like, what the fuck is going on here? And he gets whapped in the fucking head as well. This is a great way to set up Tommy End in AEW. Competing against one of the biggest names and one of the presidents of AEW, and have him go up against Cody and have Cody lose to him, that is one person Cody needs to put over. All these other schmoes he's been facing lately, I don't care about him beating those guys. This is the guy you want to put over. This guy has come off a company that has done nothing for him since coming out of NXT, and AEW should be able to bring him back to the same level he was in NXT on a bigger stage. There's no reason for error. There's no reason for any kind of mistake with this guy. This guy has got it made right now, just attacking Arn Anderson and Cody Rhodes. He's the top dog in AEW. I don't care if he's a world champion. Cody Rhodes is like the figure of The Undertaker in WWE. He's the guy that everybody should want to face at a major event or on a Dynamite episode. Plain and simple. Now, I'm not going to say Cody is at the same level of The Undertaker, but Cody has that, image of, when you think of a guy that you must have a match with before going after a world title, or even remotely being looked at as a major player in the company, you got to face the biggest guy there, and that's Cody. He's the one that really started it all, along with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. So those are the four guys you want to be competing against, and Cody's the best choice because, hell, he's fucking Dusty Rhodes' son. Why not? You can even have him face Dustin Rhodes. That would be an awesome idea. I think Tommy End facing him first would be a great start to, get the motions going with him. To go up against Cody. They already started with Arn Anderson. Now him beating the shit out of his brother, his older brother, I think would be a cool idea. I think that would be great. And then you could have Tommy End versus Cody Rhodes at All Out, and have Tommy End eliminate Cody Rhodes from wrestling for a while, let him go deal with his wife and his newborn child, and let him do his thing with that and be a father and everything, and then bring him back later on after he's gotten some time to spend with his family, and have him revive that rivalry he started with Tommy End. That's what I would do there. Kenny Omega, still harping on the whole situation with Hangman Page. Evil Uno came out. He wanted to let Kenny Omega know that Hangman Page is the guy that should be facing Cody Rhodes. Or, I just keep saying Cody Rhodes. Kenny Omega. I just got done talking about Cody Rhodes. Now I can't stop talking about him. But yes, Evil Uno said that Hangman Page needs to face Kenny Omega for the World Championship. He's the challenger that should be next in line. I agree. Do I think that they should have this match take place on like a Fyter Fest or a Fight for the Fallen? No way in hell. This match should not take place on regular television. Period. Not at all. This match should take place at All Out, and at All Out, Hangman Page should become the new World Heavyweight Champion. Plain and simple. All Out should be this should be the pay-per-view that gets Hangman Page to finally win a major title, where he first competed for that world title at the original All Out pay-per-view in 2019, 2 years ago. That would be a perfect idea for them to do. And I even said that way back when, you know. So, and I've been saying it. Pretty much I've been somewhat spot on. There's been a few errors here and there on my case, in my case, about when Kenny Omega was going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. I was figuring at Full Gear he should have faced Jon Moxley. That would have been 1 year from their last meeting, and it would have this time been over the World Heavyweight Championship. I apologize. I'm getting all tongue-tied here. I don't know why. But yeah, that would have been the best idea for them to do, but they didn't do that, which is totally fine. They had them compete at the December 2nd episode of Dynamite. This one should not take place at a Dynamite episode. This should take place at a pay-per-view where Hangman Page officially becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. And Kenny Omega winning it on live television was okay, because Kenny Omega, if you follow independent wrestling and you know about Kenny Omega and you're a hardcore wrestling fan, which most of the AEW fans are hardcore wrestling fans that value in-ring performances and good characters as well, would follow a guy like Kenny Omega in another promotion like New Japan Wrestling. So that's not the case here. This would be Hangman Page's first ever world championship. That should be won at a pay-per-view. Hands down, no questions asked, no thought behind it. Hangman Page should be the World Heavyweight Champion. Let's see what else took place. Oh yeah, we had the leader of the American Top Team. There was actually Jorge Masvidal and Amanda Nunes, two top-notch UFC fighters. Amanda Nunes, a current women's bantamweight champion who has been dominating the women's division like Ronda Rousey. The only person that has been doing just as good as she has is Valentina Shevchenko. I can't pronounce the last name. It's kind of a European name. Valchenko, Shevchenko. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I'm probably off, and I apologize, guys. But yeah, she's a strawweight champion, I believe. She's been tearing it up in that division for the UFC. So there's my little bit of knowledge of UFC fighting. He also mentions about Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, and he says Dustin Poirier is going to kick Conor McGregor's ass at UFC 264, which I am hoping for, and the fans were booing that. What the fuck are you dumbasses cheering for Conor McGregor? Conor McGregor is a black eye in MMA. Yes, he's a great entertainer. He's over the top. He's a larger than life type of person. But what he does outside the ring, outside the octagon, is terrible. He has been charged for assault on women. Sexual assault. Fucking attacking Habib, a former lightweight champion who is also undefeated. No fighter ever has been undefeated in MMA before and retired undefeated. He sets the record, I believe, for 29-0 victories. So, I mean, the guy was being attacked by Conor McGregor in a fucking parking lot while he was in his tour bus, trying to avoid from getting hit by freaking garbage cans and other shit that Conor McGregor was throwing at his bus for no apparent reason at all, because he was just pissed at him. I mean, that was just fucking nuts what he did back like 4 or 5 years ago, I think. It was probably less than that, maybe a year or two ago. Somewhere around the time UFC 229 was taking place, which I think was 2 years ago, I think in 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. But he was acting like a fucking asshole. This guy has been known to do horrible shit, and yet fans still cheer for him. I'm guilty. I used to cheer for Conor McGregor until I started finding out he was doing all these fucking outrageous things. I mean, the guy was acting like a fucking fruitcake. A nut, as is the proper term. And I just don't, I can't, support a guy like that. I want to see him get his ass kicked. To me, he's like a Triple H of MMA. Let's put it that way. Or Ric Flair. Only Ric Flair and Triple H were classier people when it came to being outside the ring. They weren't breaking the law and doing horrible shit to other people. But point being is, the fans were booing that, and I thought that was shit. The thing I did not agree with is that AEW is shit. That's what this guy from America Top Team had to say about AEW. Now, Jose Masvidal and Amanda Nunes did not seem to be agreeing with him on those comments. They seemed like they were very happy to be there, being in front of a live crowd, enjoying the show and enjoying the scenery that they had in front of them with the live crowd and everything, which they should be used to. UFC's got they've had a live crowd, I believe, since April of this year, and they've been performing at big venues such as like the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. They performed in a 12,000 venue in Jacksonville, Florida for their first event that took place in front of a live crowd. So they've been really taking their UFC pay-per-views and performing in front of live people. So yeah, that was, pretty weird that they had him coming out saying all this shit. He did say something I would agree with, though, outside of the comment about AEW. He said anything after the late 90s, wrestling has gone down the fucking toilet. I would have to agree with those comments. Wrestling has gone down the toilet. It hasn't been the same. The quality keeps going further and further down. AEW is the only thing that is making wrestling cool, entertaining, and worth going to. It doesn't make you feel ashamed to be a wrestling fan. WWE, on the other hand, is a totally different story, which I'm not going to get into. But yeah, he mentioned some very valid points, but at the end of the day, I think what he said about AEW was shit, but he got paid in the end, so there was the point. Lance Archer came out of nowhere and kicked his ass. Why he hasn't been competing on television is beyond me. Miro wasn't on television tonight. I don't think he needs to be since he already defended his TNT championship last week, so giving him the night off was okay idea. I hope to see him next week on television, at least cutting some kind of promo or doing some kind of appearance on Fyter Fest Night 1. All right, what else happened on this show? Oh, yeah. Ethan Page and Darby Allin had a face-to-face meeting with Jim Ross. Jim Ross was asking questions about Ethan Page and about why he wants to destroy Darby Allin so much. I mean, these are really harsh comments he's made. He thinks what he wants to do to Darby Allin's career is very inconsiderate, very disrespectful, and he thinks Darby Allin wanting to do the same thing. He kind of feels that is not good either. He kind of finds it really despicable these two guys want to kill each other. And he tried to get to the bottom of it, and Darby Allin finally came out and said it. He said, look, Ethan Page, this whole thing's about jealousy. You're upset that I managed to be here for a few years in wrestling. You've been here for 12 years. You took some time away from wrestling to start a family, a wife, and kids. And I didn't. I kept focusing on my career and continuing to move forward. So maybe eventually I could appear at a venue like this, of like AEW or something bigger, as big as this, and actually perform in front of a live crowd that has 10,000 people. I mean, that wasn't his exact words, but you're getting my point. And Ethan Page finally came out and he said, "You're right. I am jealous. I went ahead, I worked 12 years in my life in professional wrestling. Your ass has only been here for a cup of coffee, and your ass is here in AEW before I was. And, Darby Allin feels that it has a lot to do with low ambition on Ethan Page's part. His focus was on other things besides his career in professional wrestling. And, there's no... I wouldn't say he had low ambition, because that's kind of a harsh thing to say. There's nothing wrong with a man wanting to have a family and kids. So you kind of like look at it like you could either choose either side in the situation. Ethan Page wanted to be a family man. He wanted to do things besides just being a father. He had other goals in mind besides just professional wrestling. Now, granted, he may not have the aspect of living out of his car and living in the street like Darby Allin was, because Darby Allin had no pot to piss in, so all his focus had to be in wrestling in order for him to get out of the spot that he was in to make it big where he is now. So the streets got him to push himself to be at that level so that he wouldn't have to struggle the way he was. So that's the only reason why Ethan Page was not able to make it to the same level as quick as Darby Allin did. He had other things. He had a stable lifestyle financially. So the guy was just, looking for what every normal person wants, a family. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that at all. So, it's kind of depending how you look at it. It made Ethan Page look like not so much of a villain type character, even though he is portraying that character very much. But it kind of gives you the feeling of like you can't really hate him so much outside of the fact that he wants to destroy someone who just was able to become successful quicker than him. Which is nothing wrong with that. What does it matter? You still made it to AEW. You're not sitting in a place like Impact Wrestling or working for some stupid low-grade indie show. So I get what they're trying to do, but it kind of made me feel a little bit of sympathy towards Ethan Page, but at the same time not, because he doesn't really have to be jealous of Darby Allin in any manner, because even with all those detours he did in his life by getting a family and everything else and not really focusing 100% on professional wrestling as his way out of the ghetto, and getting himself out of a financial situation, he still made it to the big time. That's pretty cool. Being able to do all those things and still make it big and get to a big promotion like AEW. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So, in all honesty, you shouldn't look at him. He shouldn't be jealous of Darby Allin in any way, shape, or manner. If anything, he should be saying, I'm better than you. Look what you had to do. You had to focus everything on professional wrestling. I was able to do other things outside of wrestling and still made it here. So, jealousy really shouldn't be the thing for Ethan Page, but it is. So, in a sense, I can understand that. And why he's being looked at as a heel character. So, this coffin match will be taking place next week on Fyter Fest. I'm assuming they were way too stacked on the card, so they figured why not push it back one more week and give it its own main event spot on Fyter Fest Night 1, which I think is the right decision. Based on the match card itself, I would have still put it as the main event of this show if they still had it taking place tonight, but that was not the case. I'm trying to think here, what else took place on this show? I think I cut on most of the important stuff that took place on the show. There's some minor segments that took place. Brett Baker had a small segment. She discussed how everything that Nyla Rose did was idiotic and stupid, and in Dallas she's going to defend her women's champion, the women's championship for AEW, and she's going to defeat her and be known as the big DMD. So that was pretty much that. Nothing really special there. And the rest of the segments were just minor segments that weren't all that important. I didn't really pay attention to. And that's pretty much it. This show was a very solid, entertaining show with some really good segments, entertaining stuff overall, and it kept my attention for 2 hours straight. So kudos to AEW and their work. NXT was a good show last night. I cut that video this morning, so if you guys didn't catch it, you can always go back to the channel right underneath this video, and you'll see the NXT Great American Bash review. So catch that if you haven't already done so. Leave a comment down below if you'd like to make any comments or share your opinion with me on how you thought the show was, or anything I had to say on this review. Hit the like button if you liked the video, of course, and hit the subscribe button, of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel. And I thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll speak to you guys very soon. Bye.